largemouth. Big largemouth, Jason. Hell yeah!
Hey, what's up guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman here on behalf of Lucky Tackle Box, and today I'm going to be introducing to you the Biwaa Warax, which is awesome because I'm their spokesperson, and it's really cool that Biwaa's now taking part in Lucky Tackle Box, and this is one of my personal favorite flipping, jig trailer, chatterbait trailer baits there is, light flipping. I'm going to break it down and show it all to you soon here. So in your box you may have gotten green pumpkin, you may have gotten black and blue, or another color. These are two of my primary colors, the green pumpkin and the black and blue. First off, I want to explain some features to this bait. This bait was designed to have hard kicking appendages on the fall. So if you look close at this bait, you're going to see a lot of ridges and a point on one end. That point on the end is for matching it up to a bullet weight or a tungsten weight to where you can punch through vegetation. That's where you have that weight above your lure, right there. But in a punching version, you're going to have a heavier weight with the bobber stop that's going to trap it right there, like that guy there. So what you look here, this is what I consider light flipping and light pitching, and that's punching. The punch weight has a rubber stop right in the nose of it that's going to prevent that weight from sliding up and down your line. As you see here, this weight is sliding up and down. So I'm light pitching with this and flipping up to loose grass, up to tree branches, up to trees, up to lay down bushes, and I'm penetrating heavier cover with the punch rig. Now when you look at this bait, like I said, how it designs to fit up to that end and fall through, it's very narrow, but yet when you come to the appendages are large, so it's able to slip through that vegetation, and these appendages are going to kick a ton. It's got a bunch of little legs on there, and when a bait falls, it's going so fast, you have to get the bass's attention. When I'm fishing loose and I see that there is sun penetrating into grass and the water's semi-clear, not muddy, a great color is green pumpkin. This is probably what you got in your box right here. Green pumpkin's probably the most versatile color worldwide for catching numbers of bass. When that water's muddy, or it's real windy and it's making that water muddy, or I'm penetrating heavy cover and I know there's not much light under there, black and blue is huge. The reason for that is it's a better focal point when it's going really fast, penetrating those mats, dropping through. This is why you probably noticed on my light flipping and pitching setup right here, I have green pumpkin, and I'm out here on the California Delta, and then on my punching setup you see black and blue. So now if you ever notice that, now you know exactly why that is. Really a cool way to also rig this. I love it as a jig trailer if I'm dragging the bottom of lakes, but a chatterbait, a vibrating jig, bladed jig, whatever you want to call it, on the back of there, it's going to throw up a ton more action. So a lot of the time when your vibrating jig is going through the water and you see this right here, the focus is here. But what gives it a bigger profile, if you're looking to catch that bigger bass, is when you have action here and action with your skirt flaring around it. That's a great combination in dirty water, that Warax on the back of a chatterbait style bait like that. Okay, when it comes to my light flipping and pitching setup, oftentimes in the spring, I'm gonna let my weight slide, okay? I'm not necessarily trying to penetrate. Early in the morning, later in the evening, if you let your weight slide, you're gonna have a better cast to hookup ratio. When they grab it, the weight's gonna come away from them. They're not gonna feel added weight, and they're gonna hang on to it longer, which is gonna give you more time to realize you got a bite and set that hook. As the sun gets brighter and comes overhead, those fish are gonna pull down into that matted vegetation. This is where you would wanna add a bobber stop and pin it there. The reason why, now you're offering your bait to have the option to penetrate that grass, to get under those canopies where the bass are hiding at that point. Like I said, thin canopy, green pumpkin's gonna be your deal right there. Thicker canopy like matted vegetation, that's gonna be your punch setup. Now for this particular rig right here that I'm flipping and pitching with, a lot of the time I'm fishing on 12 or 15 pound fluorocarbon. Out here on the California Delta, things are a little bit heavier. I'm gonna stick to 15. This is a medium heavy 7'4" bait casting rod with a fast action. Fast bending right up in the tip. It's got a lot of backbone. This bait pairs up, this is the 4-inch bait, and it pairs up great to a 3/0 flipping hook. See that hook right there? If my hook went all the way down to here, you wouldn't see much action at all. You would see just this moving, but that 3/0 flipping hook is just enough. I really don't like it on an EWG hook. it seems like the hook's coming out too far and it blocks a lot of hookups on those bites, so that 3/0 flipping hook is a great combination for that. When it comes to my punching setup, I prefer a 1.5 ounce tungsten, sometimes an ounce if you have light vegetation like pennywort, yellowleaf, primrose. An ounce is pretty good. If you're fishing hyacinths or if you're fishing a wind-blown corner with matted vegetation, 1.5 ounces is usually going to be your deal. But if you're looking to get through it and make sure you're penetrating, 1.5 ounces is going to be the deal. I still have it on that 3/0 flipping hook that happens to be a TK 130 in case you guys were wondering, and I'm throwing it on 65 or 80 pound braid. Now you may think that's overkill. What are you fishing for, marlin? No, I'm going through matted vegetation where it can feel like I'm picking up 200 pounds when that fish grabs it under there. And I also need to be able to rip through that matted vegetation with this line and have zero stretch. I need to hit them and move them immediately before they swim around heavy cover. This is a punching rod. This is a heavy power rod. This is a 7'6". I like to get a lot of angle when I'm going through the mats. I don't want my line rubbing against the plants, so the longer the rod, the more straight up and down angle you have. I'm not making 30, 40 feet cast. I'm usually punching 15 to 25 feet out in front of me, so that longer rod's gonna give me a better vertical hook set on that fish, and that heavier line's gonna help it, and that is a moderate fast, and I'll explain why. On a punching rod, you want a moderate fast when flipping that Warax right there. Too stiff, the fish is gonna get stuck under the mat and shake it off, so you have a little extra tip to give them just enough cushion to where they won't get stuck under that mat. The fish is gonna wallow around, which means splash on the top, create a hole, and you're gonna lift them right out of that hole. Now, for my vibrating jig setup, this is also 15-pound fluorocarbon. This is what I'm also throwing with my regular jig. If I'm throwing a 1/4 ounce to a 1/2 ounce jig, I'm also throwing this medium heavy 7 to a 7'6" rod. I'm generally making a long cast with a jig or a long cast with a vibrating jig. Now what I like is a moderate fast rod. Look at that, it's bending all the way back into here. And the reason why, when they pick up that vibrating jig, this is why I like the moderate fast on the vibrating jig. I'll still throw it on a regular jig sometimes, but I prefer more of a fast action for a regular jig rod. But with this, it's moving through the water column, and a fish comes to grab this. They see these appendages moving, they come up and grab it, and they swim with it. That cushy rod is going to allow them to get it. By the time you feel them on there, it's going to get that rod into the backbone. It's going to give that fish time to get it in his mouth. Then you're going to be able to lean and give him a real stiff hook set at that point. So those are some of the really popular ways that I like to rig the Biwaa Warax. Now another little added bonus, guys, you may have noticed this, the chartreuse tips on my baits. They have little tiny chartreuse markers with scent in them. You can buy them at Tackle Warehouse, all these different websites, to emphasize the movements of your bait. A lot of people think you're supposed to paint half of your bait chartreuse. My buddy Jason Borofka showed me this years ago, where he goes, Nick, the thing that moves the most on the bait, you really want to emphasize that movement, whether it's tapping the end of a Senko. In this case, for the Biwaa Warax, I did just the tips and these little side appendages right here. That chartreuse is something oftentimes like juvenile bluegill have, and bass have an affliction for chartreuse. So if you guys want to up your game up and get a couple more bites throughout a day, you can do something like that. And ironically enough, you wouldn't think it would show up on black and blue, but black and blue right here, you look at those little tips, they are nice and chartreuse, just the same exact way. So those little chartreuse markers, guys, can help a ton. Now one cool little extra technique that I like to do, when Vince the designer was making these, I said, hey Vince, can you make it just slightly buoyant? He's like, yeah, you know, so he makes it, and here's a 3/0 worm hook, okay? I often rig this thing like a horny toad, and I'll fish it absolutely weightless, and I'll reel it across the surface, and these appendages grab the surface water and they kick a lot, which is really nice. This is the 4-inch, but they also have the bigger version, and the bigger version makes for an incredible top water. But this is also a great thing to do if you have a lot of snotty grass out there, to make a long cast over the top and reel it on those subtle, more calm days where they won't come up and eat one of those hollow belly frogs. They'll often eat a plastic kicking across the surface that's just more subtle and more natural. So when it comes to fishing the Warax, for conditions and time of year, The good part is it's a year-round bait. You can fish it in the heat of the summer, the spring, the fall, use the lighter colors, you can move it fast. In the dead of winter, you could drag it on the bottom when they're eating those crawdads and those gobies. You could put it on a little ball head jig or a swing head jig or a jig trailer and drag it and catch those fish. So this is flat out a year-round bait. Now when it comes to the conditions for my rigging, if I see intermittent cloud cover, I might still flip and pitch to brush piles, to grass, to weeds, to little pockets in the weeds. If it's bright and sunny and not a cloud in the sky, I'm gonna be trying to punch or throw into shade lines around boat docks. If it's windy and the water's dirty, or if it's overcast and I know the fish are willing to chase, I'm probably gonna put it on the back of a swim jig, or I'm gonna put it on the back of a vibrating jig, a chatterbait. So overcast, windy conditions, low visibility in the water, good time to use a moving bait. Early in the morning, later in the evening. If it's calm, cleaner, bright and sunny, targeting those shades or penetrating that heavy cover. Here we go. Oh yeah, just like that, guys. Biwaa Warax, so versatile. Flip it, pitch it, punch it, trailer it, walk it on top just like a frog. The bass straight up eat it. We appreciate you guys watching, guys. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and check out all the other videos below, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.